You know, something that comes to my mind often is Dr. Seuss's poem, The Lorax. One of my favorite parts is this: unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing is going to get better. It's not. I have seen how the story of the Lorax is real. It is happening now. I see trees disappearing. The impact of global warming is evident. This affected me, so I decided to take action because I realized that I cared a whole awful lot about the environment around me. Thus, over the past year, I began to fight against environmental destruction. And I'll briefly share my story with you as an illustration of how change started with me. This is how a forest, here where I live in Romania, looked like a few years ago. I used to go running here because of its splendor. Similarly to the story of the Lorax, it was cut down by people fueled by greed. Last time I went there to run, it was a wasteland of tree stumps. The birds weren't singing and the green was gone. I was heartbroken. Now, I could just point my finger at those who did this and say, "Hey, you guys are destroying the environment." But I realized that when I point my finger at someone, 3 others are pointing back at me. A sign that I should be the first to change. This also reminds me of the saying, why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the plank in your own eye? Change therefore began with me, and here is how. The approach I used was one of the 7 habits. Seek first to understand and then to be understood. Thus, only after I understand the motives of those who cut down trees can I seek to be understood, and only then I can truly speak for the trees. But in order to end global warming, a significant change must happen, since, per Stephen Covey, if we keep doing what we're doing, we're going to keep getting what we're getting. Basically, we've been burning too much fossil fuels. We've been cutting down too many trees, and as a result, CO2 levels in the atmosphere have been increasing. Temperatures have been rising and glaciers have been melting. Such facts changed my beliefs, and in turn I changed my behavior, since what we are communicates far more eloquently than anything we say or do. Now, as there were 3 fingers pointing back at me, here are 3 ways how I changed my behavior to stop global warming. 1. I used to use taxis all the time, but I got a bike and now I use that almost everywhere I go. 2. I saw forests being cut down, so I began planting trees. And 3. I used to dispose of my trash. However, I have begun recycling and I participated in a forest cleanup with Let's Do It Romania. Now, I did change my behavior, but in order to effectively end global warming, I must involve others also. So I wrote articles and participated in discussions. I created a video to persuade people to join a march to raise environmental awareness. I, for one, do not want deforestation to happen, but to live a clean and healthy life frugally. Life is not about accumulation anyway, but about contribution. Does it really take a virus to make us stop and let the environment rest? I believe that we can change. I did. We must decide ourselves to stop our constant rush towards economic growth and to learn instead to live with less, but in a green environment. However, unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing is going to get better. It's not.